Hey, Cesc and Jules here, Coffee and Talk. We're talking to you guys, the club owners, and what to look for in a great paddle director.
Today we're having coffee at the Padel Club.
Yeah, with a little bit of gossip.
I like it. So the most important thing, guys, it's about building the right team. And one of the most important pieces that you need to have on your team to become a successful paddle club, it's a leader, a paddle director, a person who knows about paddle in and outside the court.
Oh, so let's talk about you, Jules.
Okay.
You've been a paddle director for ages.
For ages.
So you're one of the best paddle directors here in this area. So let's get that out of the way. What does it take to become a paddle director, and what are the responsibilities, and what should a club owner look for when it comes to paddle director?
So number one, he needs to know how to play paddle. Number one.
that's
fundamental.
I mean, come on, you know.
Exactly. But we've seen so many paddle clubs hiring director of paddles that they don't even know about the sport.
I understand that. But do you think it's more important for this person to know more about the business aspect of like racket facilities, more important than the paddle, or vice versa? Or should it be?
And I'll tell you two parts. I divided always in two parts. How good you are inside the court and how good you are outside the court. When I'm talking about inside the court, know how to play paddle, know how to coach paddle, know how to teach paddle, know how to run clinics. Why? Because you're going to be hiring the right people, and you have to know how to run a proper clinic for you to empower those new coaches.
That's right.
You can't imagine how many calls we get of, yeah, my coach doesn't know how to run a clinic. And actually, by the way, we're going to be doing a video on that specifically, because not because you're a good tennis player or tennis coach, you know how to run a paddle clinic, which is a complete different dynamics. Same thing as a paddle lesson. So that's the inside part.
So what you're saying is, if you're there hiring a paddle coaches, you must be a paddle coach to know what a good paddle coach is.
Yeah,
right?
I can tell you within 30 seconds if he's a good coach or not. Period. I mean, you have to see with your eyes if that guy is a good coach or not. No, because you read a resume that he's been playing for so and so, whatever, and has a paddle MBA certification. Or, you have to know right away if he's a good teammate for your club. Yeah. That's the inside part. Now the outside part, even more important. You have to be able to create programs, run programs, create communities, market the club, be the face of the club, be the promoter of the club, be the salesperson of the club, be the smile of the club, be the one who's accountable for anything that goes right and anything that goes wrong on the club. So be there, be always there. I mean, this is a job as a director of paddle of 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. Even though you're taking 2 days off, but you're always on the phone talking to your staff. Make sure that they show up on time. Make sure that the coaches, they follow your programs, your coaching methodology. I mean, that's what you have to, when you're outside the court, you have to be always observing. And the most important thing is you be the face of the club, because at the end of the day, any successful club, why people go to your club? Because of the people who run the club.
So Jules, let me ask you a question. So we're in Miami, and there's probably a handful of good directors here. But if you're outside Miami, I mean, how are you supposed to acquire something like this? I mean, what our club owners should be looking for? Should they be looking for somebody as experienced in managing some type of racket sports or sports facilities that then you can transition into paddle? Is that kind of what you're looking for? Because it's going to be very hard to get somebody, director of paddle that actually knows how to play and understands, the game.
That's going to be the huge bottleneck for the next couple of years here in the United States, trying to hire the right people. When we talk about coaches, and that's what we do in the coaches certification and all that, I'd rather have someone local going from tennis into paddle as a coach, because it's easy to mold and coach that person. But the director of paddle needs to know how to make a tennis player into a paddle coach. Right. Then me as a club owner, I'd rather look for someone locally where they already know the community. Right. And it could be the tennis community. So maybe it could be a club a good director of tennis of a club, or somebody who has a sports management background within the community that you're trying to build. One of the mistakes that that a lot of the clubs are doing is bringing people from the outside. And this person shows up and they don't know anybody. I mean, they might be great director of paddles in Spain, and we can tell you, or a few cases here in Miami. You know, they bring someone from Spain. They don't even know nobody here.
So like you said, it needs to be a balance, right? A percentage of everything. So if you're a great player and that's all you are, you're missing those other components.
Exactly.
You know, so I guess that's, I think we talked about this in our other coffee and talk about coaches, and so I guess looking for someone who has the experience in sports, management, sports facilities management, who is well balanced, knows about the business, knows about programs, even though they're not in paddle, and has some good hands and plays whatever tennis or squash or whatever he's playing. Finding that good candidate and then transitioning him into a paddle director, right?
Exactly. The other component that you can do is hire someone who is into the club management field. You know, it could be managing a country club or something like that, and then hire a head coach, a head paddle coach, who knows a lot about how to run clinics or how to run, programs inside the paddle court, and you can create a good synergy with that person to create that specific balance. So you don't have the expertise on hiring the right coaches, but your head coach has a good, experience knowing and identifying who's a good coach and who's not. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the hospitality business. Paddle is the cherry on top of the cake. I mean, we're in the hospitality business. So you have to have someone who has experience in hospitality.
Yeah.
Not because they're a good player, they could be great coaches.
That's very key. I think a lot of clubs are missing that a little bit. They're not focused on that. And I think if they did invest time and effort into that, I think they're going to see different verticals of revenue starting to bring up, and people retention and creating habits.
Yeah.
Now, Jules, you were previously a director for many, many years. What does it take, and how many hours are you expected to work during a week as a paddle director?
Look, I mean, if you start in a new club, the first 6 months until you get the wheel well oiled and running and hiring the right people, you're gonna have some turnovers. You're talking about 6 to 8 months that you have to grind it. A lot of hours in the club.
60, 70 hours.
60 hours. It's
okay.
long days.
So another question, right, to club owners. How do they pay them? Because understand, you pay a salary. You can't, it's not really, you're supposed to pay them for that overtime, right? So salary doesn't mean that you can work as many hours as you want. You talk to the labor department and you're going to have issues. If you subcontract, then again, that's another. If you want the person to be independent, and exclusive only to that club, then that goes against the independent contractors, because technically they can go anywhere they want to do it. So how is that structured, as you see? Has it been done right, and what's really the right way of doing it?
The industry is all over the place. My recommendation for you as a club owner, it's hire the right candidate, make sure that you give him, specific, benchmarks, how to achieve those goals and what is the mission and the vision of the club. The other thing is, what I always like is have a combination between a base salary plus commissions. The commissions incentivize based on revenue. If you hire someone for a brand new club that they don't know, you don't know as a club owner how much money you're going to be making 6 months on the road and all that. So you start with a base salary plus a commission. Let's say the first, when you reach the $100,000 mark, you get a percentage of that. I mean, there are different ways that you can cut this, this baby, but.
So I think
commissions and base, it's
okay. So that was the next question, salary based from what to what it is. But let's go back to how do you structure the pay, right? These people are working 50, 60 hours a week. How do you structure that? So club owners, you got to just, in each state, you have Department of Labor. You should really focus on that and see what you can and can't do. Don't cut any corners, because you don't want the Department of Labor knocking on your door. You're going to be surprised. That can happen. It's happened. So make sure to abide by your laws, state and federal.
Yeah.
But let's move to the next question: is what is the range of salary? And you mentioned salary plus commission, and how does the structure work? And obviously, it depends on your experience and what you're bringing to the club. But first, let's go the range of salary or pay, what would you say that would be for for a club?
I mean, as a manager or director of paddle of a club, like if you take any other rack tennis club and all that, the range goes in between 90,000, 250 of base salary plus commission based on bonuses and things like that.
Okay.
But that will be the range pretty much.
So let's go now on your base salary and commissions. And in your commissions, obviously, you're no longer a liability, you're more an investment. As your commission, you're there to try to make money for the club. As salary, okay, in any business, you're going to have somewhat of a liability. Responsibilities are for this, making sure the club runs well. But now, you're now trying to bring in people, whether through events or rather through, clinics. So you're getting a cut of that. So they're looking at that as an investment. How does that structure work, and what is expected from a paddle director?
Well, I mean, the structure is very simple. The more money you bring to the club, the percentage you make on top of that. So you're motivated to really get the ball rolling and be the face of the club, attracting people from, clinics, lessons, hiring the right coaches. I mean, for that whole operation to run smoothly as possible. And remember, you're going to be opening, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that operation has to run smoothly. You're going to have dead times. How you can monetize those dead times. What else? How creative you are to say, if you're an outdoor club and you're pretty much dead from 11 o'clock in the morning until about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Okay, what else can we bring to the table for you to create revenue? Yes,
that's a good one. I think nobody has exact, solution for that. I mean, I've seen it everywhere, but people are trying different things. Lowering prices, getting other events there during the day. But that's really great. Trying to be creative and trying to see what works to get people in there during the day.
Yeah. I mean, here in Florida, you always get, just to give you an example, and it doesn't matter, if it's in the tennis or the paddle, it's, Saturday and Sunday mornings, the clubs get super busy, but after 12 noon, Saturday and Sunday, the club is pretty much dead. So now, how can you be creative in those weekend afternoons, create programming, create events, create something? Like I always tell the club owners, I'd rather make $10 in revenue than zero, $5 than zero. Okay, so reduce the price, be creative, try to come up with some ideas, fun ideas for them, for the members and the participants. Said, oh, I want to go to the club because they're having this and that, free beers, dollar beers, music, DJ. Be creative. And every market is different. If you're here, if you're in Arizona, if you're in the Northeast, the indoor clubs, what is the issue they have? In the summertime, everybody goes away into their country clubs. Right. If you're an indoor club, now you're pretty much dead all day long in the summertime. In the winter, you're full. So now it's very cyclical. So now, what would you do in the summer times in the Northeast or in the Midwest? How to attract people coming to your club? Reduce the membership. Also, you have to be creative, and not always you do one thing. And it's like I tell you, go fishing, and you got to change the bait and see what works and what doesn't work, and just be creative on that sense.
Good. What do you call? Okay, so I have another question, and this is club owners. I'm sure they're going to want to know about this, right? So if you're just opening up, your first 10 to 12 months is going to be hectic, right? 60 hours, you're building a club. You're going to get burnt out after a certain point of time. So in that second year, what is your goal to kind of relieve that director with some of his time? Because, his wife and his family are going to be saying, hey, what's going on?
I'll tell you, it happened to me.
Well, I'm sure it happens to everybody. But if you're a good club owner, you understand those things. And the expectation can't be like that forever before the person gets burnt out.
Yeah.
So in your second year, how do you manage that? How do you relieve some of this time, especially if it's a really good one? You know what I'm saying?
My vision is always within 6 to 8 months, have the right team in place. Where I always tell all my teammates, I'd rather be invisible. Come to me with a problem. Okay, you are you're running the club. You know exactly what to do. You know how to deal with customer issues. With maintenance issues and all that. Come to me when you were not able to resolve the problem, because that's crucial. You got to give power to your teammates and to your team to be self-sufficient. Because if not, they will call you every single minute to say, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? No, just do it.
I think what's important too is that you can't give individuals choices on what to do, because that's where liability comes into play. What you need to do is within those 10 to 12 months is to create policies and procedures. So if this happens, what do? You follow these policies and procedures. This is going to avoid liability, and then it's also going to relieve also the director of Padel from these small things that other departments can do. And I think it's creating those policies and procedures, creating a manual so everybody knows that when somebody comes in, they know what they're responsible to do and what to do if something happens. Somebody falls on the court, what do? There should be a policy and procedures for that. So you don't have to call the director of Padel and she's on the phone trying to, let's say, coordinate an event or something.
Exactly.
There's a procedure and you go through it.
At the end of the day, the ultimate goal is for the members to be happy. If they're happy, if they feel that they've been heard and you solve their problem, just to give you an example, this morning, advanced clinic, this lady canceled the clinic because she said the level of the clinic wasn't up to her level. I mean, she was better than everybody else, which we can take that in consideration or not. But I said, no worries. We'll give you a club credits, so get your money back. I'm so sorry, but the advanced is advanced. They have an NPR rating, so everybody's 4.0. So that's the level. Now, if
so they don't need to come to you. If they had a policy and procedures there,
exactly,
the coach would know, okay, what do I do in that situation? Is she correct? Do I see her level at, let's say she's a 4 and all the other people are 2? She's correct. Okay, the procedure would say, fine, give her credit, let her stay. But if they're all the same level and she just believes she is, maybe that's a no. Or there has to, you can't have that person make those decisions because your customers are going to get upset. There has to be a procedures and policies, and they just have to follow it.
Then you have the gray area where if this member spends thousands of dollars in the club on a monthly basis, renting the courts, coming to programs, doing events and things like that. So at the end of the day, remember, you club owners, you're in the hospitality, business, it's Padel, but it's hospitality at the end of the day, and we're here to make people happy, to come and play Padel to our club and enjoy their time.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience. We're selling experiences. Padel is the cherry on top of the cake. So it's about the experience, and I'd rather lose $70 to someone who brings at the club thousands of dollars and for her to be happy than piss her off because she thinks she's better than everybody else. So that's pretty much what it is.